What's happening, y'all? Welcome back to James V Outdoors. Today I'm talking about trout and how you can catch them. I also have a really cool method for... Come here. You're interrupting the video? Oh. We got somebody that wanted to be in the video. Go get a squirrel. Get him. Get him. Okay, so two different methods for catching these trout. If you see my other videos, you've seen me catching speckled trout. This is the stock trout that we're talking about here. Rainbow trout and brown trout and brook trout. Those are the three that they stock in my state, but you know, it could vary depending on what state that you're in. But there are really two main methods that people use to target these fish, and I'll talk a little bit about both. So if you're going to be going the route of fishing with one of these power baits, you know, they make the eggs. They also make a Play-Doh that you can kind of form around your hook, and it floats as well. But how you want to rig this, and I was taught this by a couple old timers that fish these trout, but you want to get an egg weight that is sliding on your main line here, and we'll talk about that in a second, why that's important. Usually my main line for these trout is like a 6-pound test monofilament. I come down from the main line to a little swivel, and then next I have a leader that goes from the swivel up to the hook. And I usually go down in size, like this is a 4-pound monofilament that's going to be going to my hook. At the end of that leader, the hook that I'm going to be using is a very teeny tiny treble hook. You can also use a single J hook, but for these trout here, your intended purpose is to catch them and eat them. That's what the state is planning on you doing when you catch these fish. So you can use a single J hook and it would cause less damage, but these treble hook are going to give you a better hookup ratio and you're going to eat the fish anyway. So if you damage its mouth, it's not as big of a deal. Okay, so the reason that we use this egg weight here is you cast this out and the egg weight's going to sink to the bottom. These little teeny eggs that you use, you just peel 2 of them off, hook them right on your treble hook, one side of treble hook in one side of treble hook in the other, and then leave your third treble hook unhooked, just exposed like that. And these baits will float. So as you cast out, your egg weight hits the bottom, these baits, they float up and they suspend. I use about 18 to 24 inches of leader between the swivel and where the hook is. So my bait is going to be sitting 18 to 24 inches above the bottom when these baits float up. That's a good range for these trout because obviously they're cold water species, so they're going to be down towards the bottom more likely than up higher in the water column when this water is cold. But the egg weight, what it does, because it's not fixed, it allows you to have a better chance of catching the trout. The egg weight sits on the bottom. When a trout picks up your eggs that are floating here and he starts to swim away, this line can move through the egg weight, and when it does that, the trout's not going to feel the resistance like if it was a fixed weight. He'll be less likely to drop your bait. When you're fishing on shore, all you have to do is just watch your rod and the slack that's in your line coming down, and when you see that slack start to tighten up, that's how you know that you got a bite. Something also that you can do, and they make these in garlic scent, but they're often harder to find because people really like them. So just go into the store and get yourself some garlic powder. It's as simple as that. You can mix it with these power bait eggs and kind of give yourself a better chance of attracting fish by the scent factor. The second method that you can use is the little artificial lure. This one here is just a rooster tail lure. It's got a little feather in the tail, a weight in the center, and these come in different colors. This is orange with a black speck on there. And then you have a little teeny blade to spin. Basically, you throw this out and give it a slow retrieve. This blade spins, it attracts the fish's attention, and the fish sees this feather and will come up and strike at it. So with the power bait that you use, you're taking advantage of the fish being raised in a hatchery and the fact that they're fed artificial baits their whole lives. And with this here, you're taking advantage of the fish's natural instinct to see this motion and to see it as prey and to attack it. And that's actually what I'm going to be using today, just for the fact that you can cast and kind of keep yourself active while you're standing there. So let's head onto the water now that we're rigged up and go catch a fish. I'm just working this bait really slowly, just letting the blade on the bait just kind of wobble and create its own action. Had a bite, missed it right there. See if I can do a little better. A lot of states have these programs where they stock trout, and it's just really nice because you don't really need any fancy gear. I'm just here with a really cheap ultralight, casting a rooster tail to catch these fish. And also too, you don't have to do anything crazy like put a boat over or hike miles. You know, a place like this, you park in a parking lot, just walk a little ways and you start fishing. Great for kids, for older people, for anybody. A lot of fun to come and catch these fish. There he goes. Got one in there. It's fun on this ultralight reel. Putting up a good fight, feels like a monster. Nice. Oh. Here you go. A pretty little rainbow trout. Well, unfortunately, I got a little bit of a late start this afternoon, so I only got to fish for less than an hour. I got this one beautiful rainbow trout. It's going to be really good. Let me show you how to clean it.
Fair warning, the next part of the video contains blood and guts. If you don't want to see it, you should exit now.
So I got a little bit lazy getting home from fishing that day and did not immediately clean the fish. He's been sitting on ice for 2 days and he's lost most of his color, but still, it's no problem here. I'm going to show you the easiest technique to clean these stock trout like this. This will work with rainbow or brown trout or whatever species that you catch. So first thing is to flip the trout over and start from the hole. Take your fillet knife. You don't want to go too deep here, you know, because you got all of his guts and everything else inside. You just want to barely make an incision starting from the hole and heading all the way up. So what you want to do is stop there. You want to leave a little bit of a gap here, maybe 1/2 inch, between where his gills start and where you finish cutting. So cut just till you have about 1/2 inch there. Okay, then the next step is to take and look at his mouth. If you look at his mouth, he's got the jawbone coming around here, but he also has this little inside flap here where it's where his tongue is located. You want to take your fillet knife and just separate that flap from the rest of his jaw. Do it on both sides, coming up to the top like this. Okay, once you have that separated, you should have basically, well, make sure you get it all the way separated there. Okay, once you do that, you should be able to just reach your thumb in from that top side and grab that whole section that you just cut, this flap here, and hold his head and get a good hold of the flap that you cut. And in one pull, you can take like that and pull everything out. You got his gills and his guts coming out in one pull there. See how easy that was? Guts and gills come out all in one. Okay, then you look at the inside of the fish. He does have a bloodline that runs right down his spine. No problem. All you have to do is just take your fillet knife and make some score marks right on that bloodline. Don't go too deep, just enough to cut the membrane. Then you want to take your thumb, hopefully you guys can see this, and work your thumb right down that bloodline. Okay, so now we've got the fish gutted and we've got that bloodline cleaned out. You know, of course, give it a good rinse when you're back at the sink. Take some water and, you know, really clean it up. But here comes the neat part on how you remove the head and the skin of this fish all in one. Okay, here's where your fork comes into play. You're pretty much done with your fillet knife at this point. You've got your fish gutted. You got his head up here. So look where his head and his spine meet the rest of his body. What you want to do is to take your knife, take your fork, I can't even talk. Take your fork and stick it in right here at the top of his backbone, just like that, with your points facing more towards the head. Then you're going to use pressure, grab his head, and in one pull, you know, use that knife, the fork, sorry, I keep saying knife, use the fork to hold his body, starting with his backbone, and just pull. And as you pull, what you're doing is just taking the skin right off from the meat. You can kind of adjust your hand hold on where you have the grip. Keep pulling, pulling, pulling. You want to start with the fork here at the top of this backbone, because it's the stronger part of his backbone. As it gets closer to his tail, it gets skinnier and less strong. So, oh, see, it does break sometimes, but just keep working that skin all the way down, and boom, just like that, you got your skin and your head off, and you're left with meat. You know, you see a little bit of silver skin and all left on there. That's fine. You can clean it up just a little bit, but that's not going to hurt you. You can take this fillet now, or I'm sorry, this whole trout, and you can put them in the oven. You can deep fry them. You can do a lot of stuff with this, but it's just a really effective method for cleaning these trout. Thanks for watching, y'all. I hope that some of these tips will help you out. Now it's time for you to get out there, catch some fish. See you next time.